Everyone,
Welcome back again for another round.
we are back.
Our last of the evening.
Second full day.
Second full day.
Third official day of the summit, but second full day. You guys been enjoying this? It's a lot of content to be going through. So much expert insights, wisdom, things that are being shared. See a lot of people in the chat here already. So exciting. Let's jump right into it. We have another giveaway today, and I want you to write the word. Okay, wait. I got to get the giveaway tool ready first. All right, here we go. I want you to write the word dirt in the chat, because this giveaway is about turning dirt to soil, okay? So after I said the word dirt, I thought maybe you should have said soil, but this giveaway is about turning dirt to soil, okay? So I'm going to pull up a slide, not a slide here, but share my screen here. And we are doing a giveaway of a 5-pound bag of organic microbial fertilizer, Earth Medicine. We met Dan from Earth Medicine. He's going to be sharing a session tomorrow. And we met him recently at a conference, and it's just a very interesting process that he has taken cow manure, composted it, but then he puts it through this whole other process.
Yeah, it's not just regular compost.
It turns it into this interesting
granulated.
Yeah, it turns it into this granulated form. It has like humates in it. It's incredible, interesting stuff going on there. You can just see before and after pictures of people putting this on their soil, and it can make a big difference. So somebody will win a 5-pound bag of it, and you'll learn a lot more about it tomorrow. So a little teaser there as well. So here we go. Let me pull up our giveaway. Ready? And the winner is 3, 2, 1, and Lisa. Congratulations, Lisa. And please, Lisa, please send us an email to support@seedtime.us to claim your 5-pound bag of Earth Medicine. All right. Fun stuff. Congrats.
Very nice.
All right. We're going to do a quick little shout out to our sponsor for today. Our sponsor for today is the School of Traditional Skills. And Dad, what's your favorite thing about the School of Traditional Skills?
Well, I think one of the really good things is that they've lined up experts on each of these subjects.
Yeah.
So you're learning from people who know what they're doing, and that's what you need when you don't know.
Yes. Yeah.
So
they've got an entire school. I'm going to play a short little video from them, and they've got a special for you on this page.
Yeah.
You going to say something else, or?
No.
Okay. Let's get this video rolling. Here we go.
It's 2025. You'd think it would be easier to get good answers, but sometimes it seems like there is just a flood of conflicting advice. That's why here at the School of Traditional Skills, we've partnered with expert instructors to create a comprehensive hub for all of your gardening, preserving, cooking, livestock, and homesteading questions. There are 30 classes, with more being added regularly, that walk you step by step through the skill building process. We film up close and from multiple angles, so you feel like you're right there with the instructor, learning things right the first time. Plus, you can join over 11,000 other folks just like yourself in our highly active community, where you're going to find the support you're looking for, exciting skill challenges, monthly workshops, Q&As from our instructors, and more. Stop digging for needles in a haystack on social media and come learn from our homesteading experts today. We're giving all Seed Time customers $100 off for a limited time. Just click the link below to claim your special discount.
All right. So our special guests this evening are Codi and Michelle Knox, and they're going to be talking about how can you really grow all of your own food. Codi and Michelle have been farming. They are They have a family, and they have their hands in the soil doing it themselves. And plus, they have a platform called More Than Farmers. You'll find them across YouTube, Instagram, other social media places. And so I'm going to pull up Cody and Michelle. And Cody and Michelle, welcome.
Howdy.
Hey, everybody.
Hey, thanks so much for being with us and sharing with us today.
All right.
And by the way, let me just say this before we turn it over to you all, just to everyone in the chat, feel free to ask questions anytime. We will be starring those, and we'll come back and have a little Q&A at the end as well. Otherwise, Cody, Michelle, we're going to turn it over to you and let you take it away.
All right. Sounds good. Thanks a lot, Paul.
All right.
All right. Throw up that first slide for me there. There we go. All right. So we're Michelle and Cody. We've got a YouTube channel called More Than Farmers. If you scan that QR code right there on the screen, it'll take you to our channel. But a little bit about us. But before I tell you about us, I have a question for you, because we're going to be talking about, can you grow all of your own food? And we're going to be talking about like the space that we use to grow all of our own food. And so I see that a lot of people have already said where they're from. We do a lot of live, I shouldn't say a lot. We do live videos kind of like this every once in a while on our channel. And I always love seeing where everybody is from. So the cool thing about this session right here is I don't have to deal with the chat. I don't have to do anything. It's the guys behind scene time that got to deal with that. So what I want you guys to do is just spam the chat with where you're from and tell us what size of garden space that you have. Just throw it all in there. And we'll let them look at that. And I'll look at some of those later, because I just love seeing where people are from. When we do live videos, we often have people from all over the world, and it's just really cool. So anyways, like I said, Michelle and Cody, we have 4 children. We homestead in Ohio. And for those of you that wonder if you watch our videos or whatever, we are in zone 6A. So that has a lot to do with what we grow and how we grow things. We started out, actually, before we lived on this property, we were living in a basement apartment, and we lived in that for a couple years. And I guess it was, Michelle grew up gardening. I did not. But I kind of got the bug to do farming and stuff. I visited Joel Salatin's Polyface farm a couple times and really wanted to get into it. We started looking for land, and we ended up finding this property, 5.5 acres. And this is kind of where we really got started. We started doing a couple things in a basement apartment. But what I wanted to say about that was, if you're wanting to grow all of your own food, it does take a lot of space to grow all of your own food. And we're not growing all of our own food, but we do grow a lot of our food. We grow all of our own vegetables, berries, eggs, chicken, beef, working on having honey for us to use.
We used to do milk.
And we used to have a dairy cow, so we did all of our dairy products and stuff. We actually sold our cow just this last summer. Different story, different time. But and that is just on 1/8 of an acre of growing space and 2.5 acres of pasture. So that's not, I mean, to some people, I know that seems like a lot of space, but that isn't just a huge amount of space. So you can do a lot. And what I was going to say is, even when we were living in that basement apartment, we still actually started doing a lot of things. Our landlords let us put in a couple raised beds and a tiny chicken coop. We had some friends that had a little bit of extra garden space that we did some gardening there. And so you can get really creative. Even if you live in an apartment, you can grow some potted plants. If you have a small backyard or a small porch, we're actually going to try some container gardening this year here on our homestead, so we can give you all some ideas of what you can do through our videos. And so we're going to try some of that. But even with a very small space, even if you can't make a huge dent in your grocery bill, you can still at least do some. Yes. And I just think that's really cool, because you can start wherever you're at. We started in a basement apartment, and we are where we are now. And we bought this property. We built it all up ourselves from the ground up. Basically, literally, there was an old house here. We tore it down, and then we built a new house on top of the old basement, and we did the pastures, all the infrastructure here and everything. So literally built everything from the ground up. So we're going to get more into some details of that later. I'm going to let Michelle talk a little bit now.
Yeah, so like Cody said, we grow all of our own berries and vegetables. We're completely sustainable when it comes to veggies. The only time that I will like go to the grocery store and buy veggies is if I have to take like a specific veggie platter to a potluck or have some fresh berries to go on top of a cake or something. But other than that, we don't buy anything of veggies and berries at the grocery store. We do buy our own fruit though. I mean, we do buy some fruit. We've dabbled in fruit. We have a lot of young fruit trees coming up, but growing fruit it's a lot harder, in my opinion, than growing veggies and berries. So we're still working on that. So as far as space goes, we have 2 gardens. You'll see on the slide here. The first garden that we have up by our house is like 20 by 40 or 800 square feet. That's our smaller garden. I love having a garden that's like within a couple feet of my house. It's really awesome. And then also in that front garden, I have a raised bed that I use for my herbs. And then up along the house, along the entire side of the house, I have a raised bed that has windows over it. And that's where I grow all of my greens and a couple herbs. I have some cilantro, lettuces, and things like that up there. And that makes so that we can have greens at the crack of spring. And then also we can have greens into December because I can put those windows over that raised bed. And those greens will last for a long time into the winter. Then we have another big garden that is a little bit further away from the house, still not too far. And that one is 50 by 70 or 3,500 square feet. That's a pretty big garden. I have a path right down the middle, but all of that is in-ground garden. And then at the end of that, I have 10 raised beds. And those are 3.5 by 10 feet each. And I'm in love with my raised beds. I'll probably talk about those a little bit more later. We have a couple other things here and there, like we have a grape trellis up by our house and a couple tea beds, but the bulk of what we grow is in those 2 gardens. So in this amount of space, this year in 2024, we grew 500 pounds of potatoes, 175 pounds of carrots, enough tomatoes for a year's worth of condiments. So all of our barbecue sauce, ketchup, salsa, marinara, chunk tomatoes, tomato juice, all of our tomato condiments are from our garden. And then also we grew all of the veggies that kind of fill in the gaps. And so like broccoli, green beans, sweet corn, red beets, all the different things. So when it comes to the amount of space that you'll need, this is a question that I get quite a lot, is like, how much space do I need to do what you do? There's so many variables. It's going to depend on your climate. So Ohio is wonderful for gardening. We have nice warm summers that aren't too hot, but they're not too cold. Our winters aren't crazy cold. We have lots of rainfall. That's a huge deal. So this last year we went through a drought, and it was definitely something new for us. That's not something we usually face. Another thing about your growing space is your soil fertility. One person can grow a whole lot in a small amount of space, whereas another person with not good soil isn't going to be able to grow as much. So another thing that is going to make a difference in how much space you need to do what you want to do is the crops that you want to grow. Some crops take more space than others. So on this topic of how much space that you will need, every year, this is kind of crazy to me, but every year I'm able to grow more food in the space that we have. So in the beginning, when we started gardening, every year Cody would like add another tiller strip onto the garden. We were like, we need a little bit more space. Our family's growing. But once I started focusing on soil fertility, all of a sudden I would come to the end of the year and I'd be like, I have way too much food with the amount that I'm growing. And so the next year I would cut back. So if you want to really maximize your growing space, and then definitely focus on your soil health. It used to be that I would plant 30 tomato plants, and that would give me enough tomatoes for our family for a year. Now I only have to plant 10, and I get more than enough. I'm still giving bushels of tomatoes away to my friends at the end of the season. But now at the end of the year, I have all these gaps. I'm like, well, I'll just fill it in with wildflowers. So my garden has stayed the same size, even if our family has been growing. So the way that I design my garden each year when it comes to space is I first choose my staple crops. This is kind of one of those things that it's kind of the foundation of how we manage to grow all of our own food is we have staple crops. And our staple crops are white potatoes, sweet potatoes, carrots, onions, butternut squash, and tomatoes. So if I grew nothing else in my garden and I just had those, we would still be making this massive dent in our self-sufficiency goals for our family. So when I am planting my garden, those are the very first things that I find a place for. And then all the other things like broccoli, green beans, red beets, corn, dried beans, I just fill in the gaps around those staple crops. And for me, having something to focus on, I just make sure that my white potatoes and sweet potatoes and carrots and onions and squash and tomatoes do really, really well. If I have that to focus on, it really keeps me, somehow it just declutters my brain. So yeah, I first make space for those and then I fill in all the gaps. So when it comes to space, if I was to give my best advice to a beginning gardener, it would be that it's so much better to have a small garden that you can actually keep up with, that you can take really good care of, than it is to have a large garden that you just are always behind on. Your brain is going to start, if you have too big of a garden that you can never keep up with, your brain is going to start connecting gardening with just this hopelessness and defeat, and you are soon going to get very burnt out. I know what that feels like. I know what it's like to garden in a garden that does not have good soil, that does not produce well. It's really, really disheartening and it makes you want to quit. But if you have a small garden and you're getting really good yields, you're able to focus on each individual plant, you are just going to want to do more and more and more. So in my opinion, if you're starting out, do a small garden, stay on top of it, rather than a large garden that you're not going to get much from.
And I'll add to that a little bit. Something that we started just, it was 2 or 3 years ago, we put in our first raised bed. And I think that made a really big difference for us in decluttering our brains. It's obviously not giving you more space, but it's a more organized space. And I think you can better take care of the soil that way by adding amendments to specific beds or things like that. And also just keeping things organized. Now, Michelle, when her garden is looking very weedy, instead of looking at the whole entire garden and being really overwhelmed, she can look out there and decide, I am going to go and weed one bed. And then the next day, maybe she'll do another one. And so it just keeps things organized and kind of declutters your brain a little bit.
Especially for beginners.
Yeah. So that's something we've talked about in our videos. We would highly recommend, if you're starting out, put in a couple raised beds, then add more as you go on. But I think it's a little more cost up front, but I think it helps your brain out. Yeah. So speaking of what we grow, I want to talk a little bit about some of the financial side of homesteading, of gardening, things like that. So you can see the title there. Where should your money go? Simple is better. For us, we found that we like to grow things that don't take nearly as much infrastructure and don't take as many tools. So one thing that we do not do at this point is we don't have a greenhouse or a hoop house. Something we did before, or we had a greenhouse that we never actually really used.
We never planted a thing in it.
Yeah. But it's just something that it was given, it was on loan to us. So we didn't pay any money for it, but something that costs money, something that takes more work, and it's just something to add to it. So we focus on growing things that don't need things like that, or even when it comes to preserving things. So something like green beans takes a lot more preservation than something like potatoes. You saw that slide with a picture of the potatoes we have in our cellar. All we do with those is we dig those out of the ground, lay them on a shelf for a couple weeks, and then they go into bins in the cold cellar. And by the way, I'm not sure why that camera keeps moving back and forth. I saw somebody comment about it. I think it's something with my camera. So if that annoys you guys, I'm sorry about that. Anyways, so potatoes, you just cure them, stick them in crates, and then you're done. It doesn't take a freeze dryer to do anything with potatoes. It doesn't take a canner to do anything with potatoes. And so that's something we focus on, is doing things that don't take a lot of tools or infrastructure. Another thing is, when you're looking at tools and infrastructure, obviously is just looking for used stuff. It can be really fun to look through a catalog or look on Amazon or something like that to find all the tools that you think you should buy. And if you look at the description and the ads about it, they'll convince you that you need to buy it. But for a lot of things, when we got started, especially, we got a lot of used stuff. and we were able to buy quality stuff for a lot cheaper doing it that way. Yeah, in the beginning, we just really did not have any money at all. We were broke. We started this homestead life. A lot of people look at this homestead life and are very, I guess, scared to get started because they don't have any money. They don't think they can. We did not have any money. We didn't have any money for down payment on a property. And there was circumstances that we had that other people may not or whatever, but we were able to get a loan and get our property and get started. And we really just made do with a lot of things. Something just as simple as growing your own seedlings versus buying your seedlings. And that's something that I'm going to talk about in a different light in a little bit. But to start out with, a lot of those things you can do yourself. You can find ways to get creative and you can get started. If you're looking to buy a piece of property, I think one thing that we found is really important is to focus on focusing more on the land that you're getting versus the house that you're getting. I think today in American culture, a lot of people are looking for the perfect house that they need. And for us as gardeners and homesteaders, we need the perfect land. And it doesn't have to be perfect. It can be built up. This property, our pastures were conventionally farmed before we got here. So they had chemicals in them. And I'm guessing there's still residual stuff in there, but they were not very nice pastures at all. We actually tried our first garden on this property in one of the fields, and it did not go very well.
It was such
at
a
all.
bad garden.
And for the first couple of years, our pastures just grew nasty weeds in there. Tall, disgusting, nasty weeds. But we worked on it. We ran cows and chickens through there. And now we have really, really nice pastures that can support a couple cows on just a couple acres. So get something, a land that you can work with, that you can build up, but focus more on the land versus the house, because you can do with a lot less than you think. We've been in our house now for it's like right about 10 years.
10 years.
We've been in our house, and we have done with a very small house. We are thinking of something different in the future for us because our family is growing, and not in numbers, but in size and age. Family is growing, and there's just different reasons. But one thing that we found is that we could put an addition on our house to take care of that part of it, but we can't put an addition on our land. So we're actually possibly looking at a different property. I don't know what's going to happen there, but just something to think about when you're thinking about getting started. Another thing when it comes to finances is we very much believe in being minimalists, having fewer things, but having high quality things. So if you see a lot of the tools that we use, most of the time they're going to be pretty high quality tools. We don't often get the super expensive, crazy stuff, but something that is going to last a long time and that's going to work really well. We've made some mistakes and things like that and bought some cheaper things that just didn't work very well, ended up needing to spend more money on it again because we didn't get something. But very much we focus on having as little tools around as possible because number one, it can clutter your brain. It's hard to keep a lot of things organized and it costs a lot of money. And I do think when you're looking at which things to buy, you need to look at making worthy investments. So something for us towards when we got started, like I said, we were broke and I wanted to get a wheel hoe for our garden. I just thought it would work really well. Michelle was like, we're broke, can't buy something like that. We went back and forth a little bit. Finally, we decided we're going to go ahead and buy the wheel hoe, and we did. And that was a very worthy investment. I think that's probably your favorite garden tool now is the wheel hoe. It just works really well, saves a lot of time. Something that I see, another kind of example, something that I see people talking about having a YouTube channel. And they're like, where could I get a camera for like $200 that'll make awesome YouTube videos? I just need to get by. I just need something that's decent. I just need to get by. And what I tell them is if you're actually really serious about it, if you really want to make this happen, you need to be willing to make some investments that will actually push you farther. So maybe wait a little bit and get a good camera. So if you're not sure, but if you're actually serious about growing a lot of food, growing all of your own food, then there are some worthy investments that you might need to make.
Yeah. Not having the right tools for the job can really cause burnout really fast. Yeah. So, kind of switching gears here a little bit back to time commitments. So before planning what crops you want to grow, I think it's really, really important to assess how much time that you actually have. I think that's one thing that beginning gardeners sometimes just forget, is about what, like, all the time that's actually going to go into what you're doing, all like on the back end as well. So once your crops are ready, you know, what are you going to do? So anyway, some of the biggest time suckers that go into growing your own food. I mean, the biggest time sucker is going to be the gardening, the gardening aspect of it, actually growing the food. And so kind of the biggest time suckers involved in gardening are, I put them up on the screen for you guys. These are just some categories that I came up with that have been the biggest for me. You guys can put in the chat things that I missed if I missed them, but watering, weeding, fertilizing, pest control, harvesting, and preserving are kind of the 6 biggest categories of things that you're going to have to put your time into. At some point, all of these 6 things have been an issue for me. And I'm just going to go over some really practical ways of how I personally have made this lifestyle doable. So first of all is weeding. I have that one as the first one because for me, that is the biggest time sucker of all when it comes to growing our own food. And at first we had really, really poor soil. It was hard clay. Weeding was a huge, huge issue for me. I don't necessarily know that I'm qualified to speak about no weeds. I'm not one of those gardeners who is like, oh, I'm a lazy gardener. I don't have any weeds, like never pull a weed again. I have just never fallen into that category. I have weeds. I have come to a place in my gardening experience where weeds are very doable for me. Number one is mulching heavily. We mulch everything very, very heavily with leaves, and that makes all the difference. I used to use paper and straw. I don't anymore. I might talk about that a little bit later, but I love leaves. They compact down against the soil. They keep your soil nice and cool. They shade out the weeds. They make so you don't have to water as much. So mulching is by far my number one thing. I don't do the wood chip mulch. A lot of people will say that in order to not have weeds, you should do the wood chip method and never till. Full transparency, we do till. We till once a year. And every now and then we'll till something in the fall. Do we do it in the fall too? Mm-hmm. Yeah. So our main tilling is in the spring when we are getting a seed bed ready to plant into. And then that will work in any kind of cover crop or anything like that. We do it then, and we do a nice shallow till. We don't do it really deep. We have such a large, vast space that for us, getting around that amount of wood chips is just kind of a big deal. And having the big piles sitting around composting so that it's ready to put on, it's just kind of a big deal for us. Leaves are very lightweight. Those are much easier for our kids to help us with as well. So that's just kind of the route we've gone, and our soil gets better and better every year. I am not a fan of deep tilling. I'm not a fan of tilling like every other week like some people do. We keep it at a minimum, but this is what works for us. So I have come to a place where weeds are very manageable, but I don't completely eradicate weeds. So another thing that I think is so key, and this is going to be key in all of these, is having really good soil. Before you try to grow veggies, grow your soil first. Soil is just so important. It will make everything easier. If you have nice soil, you can use a lot of the weeding tools so much easier. Like a wheel hoe is not going to work in hard clay soil. And even just hand pulling weeds is going to be so frustratingly hard if you have really hard soil. So focus on your soil, and all of these categories will get better if you have nice soil.
I want to inject something real quick here. We have a friend that does more of like large scale farming, but something that he told us was that even weeds can be a good thing.
Yeah.
The ground wants to be covered. God created the ground to be covered. And so sometimes if there's a space that's not covered in your garden and there's weeds growing up, that's actually a good thing. It's helping bring nutrients into the soil as long as you don't let them go to seed.
Yeah.
So weeds are not necessarily always a bad thing either.
And I am, for the record, not against wood chip gardening, the back to Eden gardening. I'm not against it at all. I follow a lot of those same principles. I just don't do it exactly the same. And also my raised beds are all no-till. So the next thing is watering. Now, for us here in Ohio, watering is not a really big deal. But I will say it helps so much to have a water source right close to your garden. That will suck so much time if you have to be lugging water out to a garden. I couldn't garden at the scale that I do if I had to lug water. So have a hydrant. We put hydrants in, and it made the world of a difference right close to your garden. Another thing, especially if you have a lot of land, dragging hoses everywhere can just be very laborious and very frustrating. So I like the magnetic hose clips that you can just clip onto your hoses so that it's very easy to switch out hoses. We had a drought last year, and it made me more empathetic towards all the people in dry climates who talk about watering and who talk about having drip hoses and all the things. It was a really big deal trying to water everything. Another thing that will help with watering is mulching. I barely ever have to water our garden here in Ohio because the mulch just keeps all of that moisture in your soil. It keeps everything nice and cool. So that's awesome as well. Also,
I was gonna say, even when we had that drought, weren't there spots that you peeled away some of the mulch and it was still damp underneath there?
After a couple months of it, there wasn't anymore, but yeah. Another thing is fertilizing. I say this is something I struggled with in the past. This is not something I struggle with anymore since we have good soil. If you focus on your soil, fertilizing is not going to be that big of a deal. So what I do with our soil is I compost it. Number one, we put a couple inches of compost on our soil every single fall. And then I also do a soil test every fall, and we'll add amendments the next spring if needed. I wouldn't just be dumping amendments on your soil because honestly, we haven't had to do a ton with our soil. And now that our soil is so beautiful, we barely ever have to fertilize. The only two fertilizers that I ever get are fish emulsion and liquid seaweed. And I only use them if there's a certain plant that's struggling, and that is like maybe once or twice in a growing season. So you can dump a ton of time and money into fertilizing if you don't have good soil, and it's a huge time sucker. Pests. So pests are something that also get much better if you have good soil. My pest issues in my garden have gotten better and better and better every single year that I have been working on my soil. Don't take that too far and get too hard on yourself if you have some bugs. I still have bugs in my soil, and my soil tests are coming back really beautiful. The guy that did my last soil test was like, this looks more like compost than it does soil. He's like, you have lots of organic matter, you have minerals that will last for another 2 years yet without any added anything. But I still have bug problems, and my soil is not perfect. I'm just not sure that I think that sometimes magazines and just information can be kind of idealistic and make gardeners feel like they're not good enough. Don't be too hard on yourself. I personally don't know a gardener, and I have lots of gardening friends. I don't know a gardener who doesn't have pests in their garden at all. So my favorite method of taking care of pests is hand picking or sweeping them with a sweeper. That was Cody's idea. A little battery powered DeWalt sweeper is amazing in the garden for sucking up pests like squash beetles, cucumber beetles, asparagus beetles. It's amazing. I personally think that the hand picking method it just works better than organic sprays. I don't always trust organic sprays, honestly. I use a few of them. I think the only one that I really use is BT. I use that on my broccoli for the worms. Otherwise, the worms take over. That is a really bad pest in my garden. But yeah, hand picking for me, like keeping an eye on your plants, picking eggs, beetles, things like that, is going to help. Like staving off the infestation before it happens is, for me, what has worked the best. So next is harvesting. I think it's really important to just assess how much time you have before you plant things and think about how long something is going to take to harvest. There is nothing more discouraging than putting a ton of time into a certain crop and then having it just waste away on the vines because you don't have time to pick it. I've definitely been guilty of that. And it's really discouraging. So if you don't have much time, maybe plant broccoli instead of green beans, because broccoli is so much easier to harvest. It's like a one-time harvest. You just cut the head off and you don't have to worry about snapping all of those green beans or shucking all of those peas. I mean, it takes a long time to, what do you call it? Husk peas? That's not what you call it.
I'm not sure.
I can't think of the word. But for the amount that you get, there are some crops that just take way less time. So definitely think of that. And also having the right tools. Like if you try to use a potato fork versus an actual pitchfork, a potato fork is going to work so much better for harvesting potatoes than a pitchfork. So definitely look into the right tools to get the harvesting done. As far as preserving, here again, just assessing the time that you have. I personally don't love hanging out in the kitchen much. I don't love canning. And so for me, focusing on those root veggies saves me tons of time, tons of preserving time. I don't have to freeze or can or really do anything with potatoes. I can harvest them, put them in the root cellar, and just ignore them for the entire winter without any kind of preserving. Another thing is like just looking at, so I have strawberries versus raspberries. Strawberries, we have to bring them inside and cap them all, put them in freezer containers, all the things. Raspberries, you just throw them in a bag and you're done.
But the strawberries are so worth it.
And the strawberries are worth it. Now, I definitely do some of these more time-consuming things, but when I had babies, I really just focused on root veggies. And so if you're in a time where you are just trying to make do, you don't have much time, maybe you have a full-time job, definitely look into how long something is going to take to harvest and preserve before you plant it.
Mm-hmm.
So kind of wrapping up here, I'm just going to really quick rapid fire go over some of the failures that we have had. We're at a point in our lives now where we're having more successes in our garden than failures, but it hasn't always been like that. And so we just like to be transparent about our failures so that you guys can learn from our mistakes so that you don't have to make the same ones. So first of all, this is a really simple one. It sounds like a no-brainer, but I grew a ton of food that my family didn't like. So I used to grow Swiss chard. I used to grow a ton of cabbage. Turnips was another one that I did. And then I would like stress myself out trying to feed them to my family. They would turn up their nose and I was just like, what? I spent so much time growing this. And for some reason, I don't know what it was in my brain, but I would plant the same thing again the next year. Like for years on end, I planted Swiss chard and I gave it to the chickens every season.
We did sell some for a while.
Oh, did we?
Yeah.
So anyways, plant food that your family likes. Another one.
That slide off the screen, by the way.
Oh, yeah. Another one, this is a really big one. And this is something we still struggle with sometimes, is sometimes we would let our ideals get in the way of our success. So for example, I used to be determined that I was only going to grow heirlooms and everything had to be heirloom, tomatoes, everything. And there are certain crops that we struggle with here in Ohio. And so it really helped me when I just broke down and was like, okay, I would rather have a hybrid tomato that I grew in my garden than buy all of my tomatoes at the grocery store, because I was having zero success with some of those heirlooms, especially back when my soil was not doing well. So be easy on yourself and just recognize that better, it doesn't have to be the best in order for it to be a success. If you just fail over and over and over again, you're going to get burned out. Another thing is fighting the weather. I used to like plant out my seedlings way early just because I was excited or because I wanted to, I don't know what. And then I would have to like watch the weather all the time and put all these buckets and blankets over all of my plants. And it just made the whole planting experience so much more stressful. So don't fight the weather, work with Mother Nature. She knows best. And yeah, you'll save yourself so much stress. Another thing that I have down was buying paper and straw instead of using leaves. Paper and straw can be great. I know that some people use paper with good success, but it doesn't like compact down against the soil like leaves do.
I wouldn't call it compact. I would call it matte.
Matte. Okay.
Matte's down. Compact sounds bad. You don't want to compact your soil.
No, it mattes down. It's a good thing. And then the straw is too airy. And I think like too much air and light can get down there. And so I had weeds poking up through there all the time. And it was just, and it also didn't help my soil.
I would say though, that if you don't have access to leaves or wood chips, the paper and straw is not
It's
a bad
better
option.
than nothing. Yeah.
That
definitely
saved us a lot of time with weeding and stuff. It just wasn't as good.
I think for me, like, I can't stop talking about leaves because that was one of the most transformational things in our gardening experience. The other thing, and this is probably the most important, is that we put self-sufficiency ahead of the happiness of our family. And I wish I personally could go back and let go of some of my gardening ideals, some of my growing my own food ideals. And I wish I could soak in more of the time when my kids were babies. So just be easy on yourself. Make sure that you have time to have fun and not just work.
My turn.
Yes.
All right. Some of the failures that I put down on for me, first of all, I had talked about the financial stuff a little bit ago, what you should put your money towards. I think some of that stuff can actually be a trap. That trying so hard to save money can be a trap. So many of us in this homesteading gardening world start out with very little money, and we try to cut corners, and we try to save money in places that hurt us in the long run. And there were several things for us that was just like that. One thing, this is totally random, but I bring it up every once in a while because it's just so simple. A tool that I did not get for a long time was a post puller. $40 tool at Tractor Supply. All of my fencing for our cows and stuff is electric fencing, and we use a lot of T-posts. That camera is driving me nuts.
I wonder why it's moving like that.
Is that
Sorry.
you guys back there, or is it? I think maybe it's my camera.
It's not us. I think you have like one of those auto tracking cameras.
Your faces, so we just need to.
I think the only way to turn it off
whenever
is
you
to
look
like.
away, it like moves over to Michelle.
Okay. I'll just
look
try to
at
look
it.
forward.
We're-
Okay, I think we're good though.
okay.
Anyways, so where was it? The post puller. That was something that I did not get. All of our fencing is electric fencing with T-posts, a lot of T-posts. And if you know anything about using stuff like that, especially when you're starting out, you end up figuring out that you should have put a fence somewhere else rather than where you put it. And so you end up needing to pull T-posts. And they can be really hard to pull. Some of those, you got to get a tractor out and start pulling it or whatever. But this post puller, I mean, you literally just go up to it with this little metal contraption and just push on it and the post comes right out. $40 tool would have saved me a lot of backaches and sore muscles and time. That's something. And hydrants, Michelle said something about having water close to her garden. That was a really, really big thing for us. We only put hydrants on our property. It was
just a couple years ago.
Well, what made me laugh was it was right when Michelle was about to have a baby, so it was 4 years ago. Our youngest is about 4 years old. Anyways, she was about to have a baby, and I was out there digging trenches for these water lines. But so we did a long time without having any hydrants. We just had a little spigot on the outside of our house, and I hauled buckets and buckets and buckets of water for all of our animals and long hoses to get out to the garden. And it just did not work very well at all. And that was definitely a very worthy investment. One of the big things for us for a long time, we were selling eggs, and we started out raising all of our own pullets because obviously that's cheaper, right? You buy the little chick and you raise it up. Come to figure out later on that it actually isn't much cheaper than buying ready to lay pullets that are about 16 weeks old or so. And it's a lot easier to buy the ready to lay pullets, and they laid a lot more eggs than the ones that I raised myself. So just something like that, looking at it is good to try to save money sometimes, but that can be a trap that holds you back from success. Another thing that I tried to do was when we were growing our own seedlings, I tried to do my own soil blocking, and I kind of like half followed a recipe and half did my own thing, and it did not work very well at all. Soil blocks did not stay together. I made my own little soil blocking thing out of like a piece of guttering and a French fry cutter, and it just did not work very well at all. One of the biggest things that we had failures with was our cow. I would say we did pretty good with our cow, but there was a lot of things that we had to learn lessons along the way. The reason I bring this up is because one of the things that kept us from having even more failures was having a mentor. When we first got a milk cow, there was like 2 people especially that I talked to a lot about having a milk cow, and I learned at the feet of the masters, put it that way. And that helped me along so much. Since we started creating content, I right around the time I started going on some Facebook groups, some cow Facebook groups, and I saw all the questions that people were asking and then all the answers that they got. And it was pretty disheartening, I guess you could put it that way. And I felt like if it was me as a beginner cow owner looking at that Facebook group, I would have been so overwhelmed. And I think one of the best things for us when we started was having a real life person that we could talk to. And I might be shooting myself in the foot here because we are part of the social media thing and we want to teach people, we want to help people. But I think the most important thing is find somebody local with gardening. If you're thinking about gardening, people who know your climate, who are growing things in your zone will know more about how many things you should plant, what varieties you should plant, when to plant it out, when to harvest it, and things like that. So as much as you can, try to find somebody who can be a mentor of sorts. Mm-hmm. And when it comes to failures, one thing that we've been told a number of times, because we've made a couple of YouTube videos about the failures that we've made on our homestead, and we got so many comments saying those were not failures, those were lessons learned. And we never intended to get down on ourselves about our failures, but it did really hit home with me when I think about some things that I mess up with. Like this camera, for instance. I'm feeling like a failure at the moment because it keeps moving back and forth. Guys. But it's a lesson learned for me. This is the first time I've used this camera in a situation like this. Lesson learned for me. I know to change that setting for the next time. But it's all learning. And with homesteading and gardening, it really is a huge learning process. So if you have a failure, don't just look at it as a failure. Look at it as a learning step. So I think that's pretty much all we've got for now. And I was just going to mention too, pretty much everything that we've talked about here, we go more in depth on our YouTube channel about a lot of this different stuff. But we've got some time for some Q&A stuff. So hit us.
All right. Yeah, let's hit up the Q&A. We got lots of questions in here. I'll grab the first one here. What growing zone are you guys in? Someone was asking.
What?
We're in zone 6A.
6A. All right.
So there are a number of people who were that slide where you had your potatoes on the racks, that kind of caught the attention of a number of people. Could you just tell us a little bit about your storing process? What were you doing on those racks there? And
yeah.
Okay, I'll tell them what the racks are, and then you tell them about how we do it. So the racks are we got them from Home Depot. They are stainless steel. I think they're listed as commercial, heavy duty storage racks. And they're really cool because you can easily move the shelves up and down to different heights. I don't know how much you could see in that picture. I think that was just the potatoes laid out, but for part of it, we lay the potatoes out on a single layer. Sean can talk about it, and then part of it, we put them in milk crates to put them on the shelves. And so we need shelves at different heights, really easily adjustable. This is the first year we've used them, so I can't say as to their longevity, but they seem very sturdy, and we really, really like them.
Yeah. The reason that they're laying out on the shelves is because that is the curing process. So I lay them out in a single layer in a relatively warm place with some airflow, but you want it to be very dark. And what it does is it will thicken the skin on the potato and make so that they store for a really long time.
Mm-hmm. So they're just laying out like that for like 2 weeks,
2 or 3
and then
weeks.
They can be put into crates.
Yes.
And we totally random. We have a friend of a family that was working with a soup kitchen, and for some reason, a couple companies donated a whole bunch of milk crates to the soup kitchen, and they didn't want them all. So they heard we might possibly want something like that. So they gave us a whole bunch of them. Those work really, really well because they allow some airflow in there.
Nice. Yeah. Thanks for explaining that. That people were definitely wondering what was going on there. All right. Angie's got a question here. Do you companion plant white potatoes and sweet potatoes?
I do not companion plant those. I don't know that. I just feel like it would be one giant mess to try to dig them. So I plant them separately.
The sweet potatoes are
they just they vine
and they crawl out. So they would like cover over your sweet potatoes.
Yeah.
We at this point still plant the white potatoes in the ground and the sweet potatoes in a raised bed.
Yeah.
All right. Another question here. Darlene says, do you plant flowers with your veggies?
So I used to not plant flowers because I was like, can't eat them, so I don't have time to grow them. But I do plant flowers now. I plant lots of wildflowers because we got bees recently, and it really just it gives them a place to, find pollen, and it also just attracts just all kinds of beneficials. So I have started planting wildflowers just in the last few years, but I did also have a very nice veggie garden before I started planting flowers. So yeah.
So you kind of do the wildflowers in like one little spot.
Yeah.
You should tell them about the flowers you planted in with the whatever it was that actually brought the bugs in.
Yeah, I did do some nasturtiums because they were supposed to deter squash bugs, but instead they just brought in black aphids. And so I looked it up and I was like, oh, they're a trap crop for black aphids. So I don't do like a ton of companion planting with like flowers in among my veggies. I don't know. I'm probably just a little bit too practical for that. I like everything like all sectioned out and neat and in order. So I kind of just do plots of wildflowers all throughout my garden.
Mm-hmm.
Like it. We're kind of that way too, actually. I feel like we do most of our veggies together. And
my brain gets so cluttered.
Yes.
Yeah. CJ's wondering, do you grow much in the way of perennial vegetables?
Yes. That is something I did not cover very well. I do rhubarb. I have asparagus. I also have raspberries, and then strawberries are kind of perennial. And what else do I have? Trying to think. Currants and grapes. We have tea. I'm wanting to start elderberries.
A lot of your herbs would be
perennials. A lot of my herbs come up every year, but that cuts down on cost. So I have a raspberry patch that's like, I don't know, 20. I started out with 25 plants, ended up pulling a couple of them out because it was just too much. But I get gallons and gallons and gallons of raspberries off of those bushes. And they're like free raspberries because they come up on their own every single year.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't have to plant them. It's just perennials are the way to go. Mm-hmm. And that's the first thing I would do if I bought a new plot of land is I would start planting perennials.
Mm-hmm. Because it sucks. You got to wait so long for them to get established.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. It's like 3 years. I don't want to wait 3 years.
Yeah. Thankfully, you can kind of cut back on that. Like with grow it, you can get crowns, like asparagus crowns, and then you can start harvesting sooner than 3 years. But
yeah. Good stuff. All right. Deanne says, do you recommend growing the staple crops in a raised bed while you are fixing your soil?
I mean, honestly, I would kind of now. Like I used to say that raised beds are for pansies.
Country Woman magazine.
Yeah, I was like, they're lame, in ground is the way to go. But when I got some raised beds, I was able to put the exact soil in it that I wanted. I just got a whole bunch of topsoil with a bunch of compost on top. And it was amazing. Like I can grow the same quality plants in my raised beds on year 2 as I could in like 10 years of working with in-ground soil. I mean, I didn't work well with my in-ground soil to begin with. So that's why it took so long. But yeah, I think like white potatoes would do really great in a raised bed. I do all of my sweet potatoes in raised beds just because I feel like that it drains better and they don't get as much fungus in those. So I think, and I do carrots with great success in raised beds. So I would absolutely, so root crops need really nice loose soil. So when I started planting potatoes, I always got just like tiny little potatoes because the soil was so hard and compacted. So you're going to have better success from the get-go if you have a raised bed with nice soil.
It's going to depend on location some too, because obviously some places have sandy soil. We have clay soil. And also if you're in a very dry place, just know that raised beds will drain water faster.
Yeah.
And so you're going to have to water more often. But for us, we're usually on the other side of it where it's too wet. So having it drain faster, especially in our big garden down towards the bottom, it like will flood down there sometimes. So the raised beds are a lifesaver for us.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's much easier
definitely
to work
staple
on your soil.
crops can be grown in raised beds.
Yeah.
Deal.
Okay, Leslie's asking, what is a wheel hoe?
There was actually a picture of one on one of our slides.
Yeah, if you throw the slides back up there.
Back up.
Right there.
Yeah.
That's a wheel hoe.
That right there is a wheel hoe. So you have your handles at the top that you hold on to, kind of like a plow. And then you've got your wheel in the front that rides on the ground. And then you can put different attachments behind the wheel. So our favorite one is a stirrup hoe that like moves back and forth and cuts the weeds off. You can also get more like solid weeding sweeps that work pretty well. You can see in that picture there several different things. There's some cultivator teeth that you can put on there, and that's if you got soil that needs to be broken up, that can work well, like if you don't have a tiller yet or something. So it can do a lot of different things. And if you're needing to weed between rows, it goes so much faster than using a hand hoe. You can just take that wheel hoe and just push it right through there.
Just slices the weeds right off. It's beautiful.
Yeah. That looks like a pretty good one. The one we use is a Haas wheel hoe. I really like the Haas one. I've never used that one, but yeah, that one looks like a good one too.
Cool stuff. Yeah. So we looks like our team just threw that one up there because we have that one in the Seed Time store. It has, those other implements are kind of cool too, being able to switch them out and different ones. All right. Rosa says, I have grown potatoes successfully. However, food storage has been a challenge. Trying to learn how to use the space I have. We don't have a basement or cellar. We have a pantry that is in the same room as our laundry room. Do you have any suggestions?
So as far as like those main storage crops, you're going to have a nice cold, dark place for them to last for a really long time. But I have definitely stored potatoes in a basement. They're just only going to store for a couple months instead of like mine. I can keep them good for 8 months in my cold cellar. So you just have to, and like carrots can be stored in the refrigerator, but obviously you would have to have space for a refrigerator. So in that case, you're probably going to have to do more canning. If you don't have a cold room, just do more canning.
We have a second refrigerator in our basement that we had actually gotten for eggs, because when we were selling eggs, we had so many eggs. And then we stopped selling eggs, so it's pretty empty, and it works great for storing carrots in it over the winter, because carrots need to be colder than what our cold cellar gets. There's ways we could do it, burying them in sand and stuff like that. But it's more pain. Just works really good to throw them in the fridge.
And also for 175 pounds of carrots, putting them all in sand, I think would take
single layers
quite a lot of room.
But I will say that I think that darkness is one of the biggest things.
Yeah, but cold is too.
Cold is definitely a thing. Yeah. But at least keep them dark. If that's the only thing you can do, at least keep them dark.
Yeah. Just like a seed can sprout in the dark. Never mind.
All right.
So Kimberly says, can you share a little more details about the financial aspect? I'm pretty much broke. My house is paid off and no debt, but without income, I can't get a loan. I need to grow veggies as well as want to.
Do you need a loan to grow your food? Or how much money do you need? Actually, that's probably more of the
So having your house paid off and no debt is really
that's
cool.
A really big deal.
Kudos to you for that, Kimberly. For us, we were able to get a personal loan. It was somebody we knew that we were able to get a loan from. We didn't have any credit, weren't able to go to the bank and get a loan. So
that was to build our house.
That was to build our house. But as far as just veggies and stuff, I mean, it doesn't take much to get a few packets of seeds and start. You can start then saving your own seeds and use them from year to year. The other thing that I've never done, but I've heard about, is there's a couple different ones, seed swaps, where you can trade seeds for different things. And I've also heard of seed libraries, where you can, I guess, borrow seeds. Like
someone was talking
get
about
seeds,
recently.
and then maybe next year you take and give some seeds and things like that. So there are definitely ways to do it. I'm not sure. I mean, the raised beds and stuff, those cost a lot of money. If you can't buy those, start in the ground. Or there's ways to build raised beds for basically free. I've seen people do it with fallen logs They'll arrange them in a rectangle and then put some dirt in it and make some raised beds out of it. So there's lots of things you can do if you are willing to put in some hard work and get really creative. Because like I said, when we started, we were dead broke, paycheck to paycheck. There was a couple times where I rode my bike like 15 miles to my day job because I didn't have enough money to put gas in my car. And you can get really creative and you can do things without a lot of money for sure.
Yeah. And in the long run, the amount of food that you get from a packet of seeds will save you money.
Yes.
So it's not like you're like you're losing money.
Right.
Yeah. Awesome. Thanks for sharing. And I know that people just really appreciated you guys sharing from your personal experience and both the ups and the downs, the challenges. Yeah. I saw someone comment and just really appreciated the authenticity. So thanks so much for everything that you shared, Cody and Michelle. Really appreciate it.
Yeah. Welcome. We're glad to be
very
here.
practical. Thank you.
Yep.
Looking forward to maybe we can have you on again sometime.
All right.
All right. Thanks so much. We'll catch you next time. Everyone, let's give a hand to Cody and Michelle. And I should ask, is there anything else that you would like to add just as kind of like final words to everyone before we wrap up?
I feel a little talked out.
I think one thing that I wish that I would have been better about from the beginning was not taking on guilt when it comes to the whole homesteading thing. Like if you have a failure, don't feel guilty about going to the grocery store. See it as a luxury that we have. And just because like the fact that you have the skill is important. Even if you're not always using that skill, the fact that you have that skill and could use it if you had to is valuable in and of itself.
Yeah. And I think, and just thinking about like words of whatever, we got very burned out with some of the first things that we did. We did a couple different farmers markets when we were starting. I had a day job and we were having babies and starting a homestead and doing farmers markets all at the same time. And it was just too much. Spread
it out a little.
Yeah. We got really burned out. And I think that's what then that was the inspiration for us starting our YouTube channel. Our mission now is to help other people avoid that burnout. So we want to help people see that you don't have to live the lifestyle that you're just constantly being burned out, that you can do these things a lot simpler than you think sometimes. And I would say just really focus on, like she said earlier, focusing on your family and stuff like that more than all the things that you really need to do.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah, I really appreciate that balance that you brought to it. That's really good.
Yeah. I see a lot of people appreciating it in the chat here as well. Thank you, Cody and Michelle.
All right.
Appreciate you jumping on.
Yeah.
Until next time, we'll see you. Wow, that was a great session with Cody and Michelle from More Than Farmers. Definitely check out their YouTube channel, their Instagram, other places on social media. And let us know. Is this helpful for you in the chat? Everything that we do here at Seed Time, we are trying to make your life easier. And so with this summit, we're looking forward to giving you the training and the tips and the tricks from all of these experts to be able to go implement them in your garden and start small. Just take some of these tips, start implementing them in your garden. It's going to make a big difference in your garden. Many people ask about the replays. We do have those available. There's a link up above at the top of this live page, so you can go and watch replays from earlier sessions. That being said, though, replays will only be available for a limited time for free during the summit here, and that is until next Tuesday, the 11th. So go catch those replays while you can. If for some reason you're not able to make it to all of the live sessions or to catch all of the replays, or you simply would like to have the peace of mind that you can come back and review these at any time, we also do have the replays available for purchase as well. And I just want to walk through that very quickly with you all so that you fully understand what comes with those packages. So right now, you can grab the replays of the entire summit for $100 off, lifetime access to the Seed to Harvest Summit recordings. And here is what's included in those summit recording packages. We have two packages, platinum level and a gold level. And with both of them, you get lifetime online access to the recordings of the summit. That's these video recordings. You get to watch the entire thing all over again as many times as you want. We're also splitting out the MP3 audio versions of those. So if you like to listen in the car or when you're out in the garden, be able to consume content on the go, this is a great option to be able to do that. We're going to split transcripts as well so that you can easily scan and go over the sections just by scanning through the transcript instead of having to watch the whole thing if you are a visual reader instead of liking to watch videos as much. And for the fun of it, we're also going to be including the live chat logs. And it's not just really the fun of it. There's a lot of good information and discussion and dialogue between all of you. This is a community experience, and it helps bring that experience into the recording package as well. And then on the platinum level, we are going to be throwing all of that into a physical flash drive as well. So you'll get all of the recordings, the transcripts, the MP3s, and the chat logs shipped to your door. So if you'd like to have a physical copy of it, that's your chance to get that as well. And then as we've been saying through the summit here at Seed Time, we not only want to give you expert training and advice and techniques, but we also want to give you tools to make that a lot easier to implement in your garden. And so here at Seed Time, we have built a garden planner called the Seed Time Garden Planner. And it makes it extremely easy to know what to do and when to do it in your garden. And as one of the bonuses, when you grab one of these packages for the summit recordings, is that you get 1 year of paid level, upgraded level access in Seed Time. This is a bundle. And so we just want to clarify this because some people are wondering about it. It's a bundle where you get upgraded access to Seed Time, the app, the garden planner, along with all of the recordings of the summit. And inside Seed Time, you set up a calendar based on your location. It automatically pulls your average frost dates. You can then add crops to it. Click the green add crop button, like you can see here, and you can easily drop that crop into your calendar, and Seed Time will give you a suggested time to seed it, to transplant it, when you can expect to be harvesting it. You can add succession plantings of those. It's extremely flexible, so you can move these plantings around. You can add plantings in the spring. You can add them in the fall. Seed Time has automatic suggested timings, but then you can completely adjust it to your heart's content as well. And then once you've got your calendar planned out, you can come over to your lay out your beds, and then place those plants where they're going to be growing at the times in the year that they're going to be growing there. So you can pull up the calendar along with your layout and walk through your season. You watch this little green slider here. It's going to move over to the right, and you'll see the crops coming in and out of the bed down below based on the time that they will actually be growing in that bed based on your plan. So you can walk through your entire season, maximize your growing space, which in turn will maximize your yield in your garden as well. You can see the times that are opened up where, hey, I could add another crop in here, or maybe I should be planting a cover crop to take up that space in the garden as well. Along with that, you'll get access to the task list. It is an easy way to stay on task throughout your entire season. So come in on a daily or weekly basis. It automatically compiles a list of tasks from your calendar. You can quickly check those tasks off and make adjustments on the fly. And you'll also have access to the Seed Time Journal, where you can easily keep track of your notes and your observations throughout the entire season, keeping logs of pictures, and you can link them to your plantings. You can search, filter them, all kinds of stuff like that. And that's not all, because you also get access to the Seed Time Classroom, community, and the online store, where you get 20% off all seed packet orders in the Seed Time store as one of our upgraded members in Seed Time as well. So On both packages, you will get upgraded level access in seed time. Along with that, at the platinum level, we've got a few extra little bonuses in here. And that is the first one here is 1 year of free bonus online access to our home gardening course. This is our flagship home gardening course. It has 12 modules with over 18 hours of video training. There's worksheets that go along with that, both teaching and demonstration videos. And in it, we walk you through step by step how to get to desired end results in your garden, like how to keep your garden weed free without constantly spending hours on your knees, pulling all of those weeds with a dinner knife, right? How to deal with pests and diseases in natural and organic ways, how to extend your season into the winter without breaking your pocketbook. There is a lot that is in the home gardening course, and we're throwing in a whole year of access to it. We're going to be redoing it. You're going to get a lot of new videos in there this year as well. And then along with the home gardening course, you'll also get access to bonus sponsor session recordings. These are exclusive sponsor session recordings that aren't aired during the main portion of this summit, including the microbiometer, which is a really cool little tool to explore the microbiology in your soil to figure out how much bacterial colonies are there, how many fungal colonies are there. And they have done a whole little bonus session kind of walking you through that and how that works. And then Diego, our friend over at Modern Grower, has put together a season extension tunnels and covers bonus session, walking you through how you can extend your season with some simple row covers and quick hoops and really neat stuff in his session as well. And then finally, along with those bonus sponsor sessions, you also will get bonus exclusive unaired garden training sessions. These are ones that we had, we filled up all of our speaker spots, and then we had extra speakers that we would love to include. And so they agreed to create these bonus sponsor sessions that are only going to be available in the platinum level of the recordings of the the summit here. One is Michael Kilpatrick here. He's a great friend of ours, and he has done a whole session on growing ginger and turmeric. So if you are interested at all in ginger and turmeric, this is the place to get information on that. And my friend James Fry with the Revolution Garden, he walks you through how he grows this raised garden bed that grows food 2 times faster than regular raised garden beds. Very interesting how the microbes work with the plants and grow these things super, super fast. It's pretty cool. So the platinum level at full price is $298. However, during the summit, you can get $100 off for just $198. Or the gold package is full price at $198. However, once again, during the summit, you can get it for $100 off for just 98 bucks. So we want to have both options available. We do not want anyone left behind when it comes to being able to own this information from the summit, but also be able to use the Seed Time Garden Planner. And I want to make a little shout out to our current Seed Time users. If you're on a paid subscription already, this is something, this bonus year, something that you can add to what you already have. So you are not left out in any way from this bonus experience. I just want to make that clear. So if you already have an upgraded account, jump in, you can grab the extra year of free bonus, and you can email support, and we can arrange everything with you so that you get that extra year of bonus access to Seed Time as well. So if you are ready to get started, click the link on this page. We have posted it up in the chat as well, or go to seedtoharvestsummit.com/lifetime. And we are backing all of this up with our 30-day money-back guarantee. So either Seed Time makes gardening so much easier, and all of the summit sessions just add a ton of value to your garden, or within the first 30 days, send us an email and we've got your back 100%. Now is the time to take your garden to the skies. Let me highlight Scott here this time. By far our best garden ever. And Anne, my crazy garden has been amazing this year. It grew in size and abundance. Joelle, so much produce. I'm going to skip through a couple here. CJ, when it came to the garden planner, said, now I have a clear plan of what to do when. Absolutely love it. Kim said, my fall and winter garden last year was the best ever because the guesswork of when to plant was simplified and so easy. You know, as we did the pre-summit survey, so many of you, in fact, the number one area that people mentioned that they struggled with in their garden was figuring out what to do and when to do it. And that is exactly what Seed Time was built for, to make it a lot easier to figure out what to do and when to do it, and to stay on track through your entire season. Like Stacy here, who says, organization, it's really helped me be less anxious about growing everything and gave me a ton of confidence in managing a whole garden. So if you would like that kind of confidence, if you would like those types of results, then we highly encourage you to consider jumping in and grabbing one of the Summit package recordings. As we said before, the recordings are available for free for a limited time. This is an opportunity to own it and be able to have it for life, and be able to review these sessions over and over at any time. Caitlin here says, Paul and Edwin, when does the offer for School Traditional Skills Yearly that was posted earlier today expire? And Caitlin, that would be at the same time as the rest of the summit. So Tuesday of next week, the 11th of February would be the time on that.
Number of people are also asking about the recording for session 2.
Yes, yeah, with John Kemp. We are getting that uploaded as soon as we can. The hope was that we'd be able to have that finished by tonight. We needed to do a little post-production on that for him. John Kemp is one of our favorite speakers, if not like the favorite speaker. But you'll notice that John Kemp is Amish, and he comes on live and is able to share live with everyone. But then as part of our Amish culture and their beliefs, he does not share his face online in pictures and videos that are recorded and just put online later on. And so we had to take that down, and we're getting that all set up so that we'll get that put back up, and you'll still have all the slides and everything and be able to review that as soon as possible. So that's the reason why there's been a little bit of a delay on that, but we're going to get that for you as soon as we can. Do you see any other questions, Dad?
I think those are the main ones.
All righty. Yes, John Kemp was amazing. Need more of him. Absolutely. All right. Thank you, everyone. Go grab your Summit Recordings package and join us tomorrow. Let's give you just a quick little rundown of tomorrow. Tomorrow, our theme is going to be about pests and diseases in the garden. How do you manage them? We have an awesome lineup. Noah Sanders is going to be kicking it off with how to manage furry pests, deer, rodents, etc. Coming up next after that, Earth Medicine is going to be doing a sponsor slot on the Earth Medicine bag that we just gave away in this session. So come learn all about that microbial fertilizer and what it is and how it works. And it's pretty cool stuff that you're not going to want to miss that. Brian Lowell is then going to be talking about insect pest management through companion planting. It's going to be really interesting. He is also one of the instructors in the School of Traditional Skills. Jill Reagan is going to talk about sustainable solutions for a thriving garden with organic pest control. And Brianna Bosch is going to wrap us up with the plastic-free garden natural mulching solutions to combat weeds. So powerful sessions coming up tomorrow. You're not going to want to miss them. And we look forward to seeing you there. I think that pretty much makes it a wrap for tonight. Yeah. All right. Thanks, everyone. Have a good night, and we'll see you tomorrow.
We'll see you tomorrow.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.